My name's Patti Butchart. I'm working with Kelly. Our shop is in Newstead, Ontario, and that's my story. We've been in business 13 years, and Kelly has revolutionized my business since January.
So, but if you could explain how it's revolutionized your business. Specifically here, yeah, we're specifically talking about pre-booking and when you started that and the success you're having, please.
Yeah, started in July, middle of July, doing the pre-booking. Excuse me. Selling maintenance off the Identifix, which you should be seeing on the screen, and I'll go through that in a minute. I was ready to close my business in February. We were doing 3 oil changes a day. Wasn't paying my bills. It was coming out of our savings. This year, or sorry, for next February already, I've got 18 appointments booked. I can't wait till February. This month, 90% of our business, because I'm just starting to see the pre-books coming in, 90% of our business has been pre-booked. We've passed our last year October sales so far, and October's not over, and I am pumped. So yeah, it's made a huge difference.
Prior to this month, how many pre-booked appointments did you make in July, August, September, whatever?
Probably August, or probably October, I had like 35.
35 for what period of time?
For this month.
Okay, and so the question is, how many people say yes? How many people say no, they don't want to pre-book an appointment?
I have had 0 people say no, they don't want to pre-book an appointment.
Okay, and how many of those people have actually come in for their appointments?
Every one of them. I'm hitting 100%.
Wow. Okay, so can you explain how you do it, first of all, with your card? And no, tell you what, let's go ahead and start with Identifix and the things that you and I discovered. I've been teaching pre-booking appointments for, well, way back when. Some of you were in our classes this week, and you heard me talk about Jim Voigt, who is without a doubt the king of pre-booking appointments. Some of you online are in our online management group. You've already hopefully listened to the short 22-minute interview with Jim Voigt. Jim Voigt used to hate Februarys, couldn't stand February. Always hated February. I asked him why, no big surprise, because it was so super slow, and yet November would be completely, totally busy. In my experience, looking at financial data, no big surprise to anybody, November was the absolute craziest, busiest period of time, and yet followed by a very slow January and a dreadfully slow February. Jim Voigt, who is a third-generation business, he took over the business from his dad, who took it over from his dad, and they all hated February. And being a coach, I have to be a little bit forward or blunt, I guess. And so I said, so Jim, you've known this for 3 generations and you haven't done anything about it. He said, well, what can you do about it? February's just slow. And I said, because in February, if we've not pre-booked appointments, we're hoping that people's cars break down and they come to us to have them repaired. The problem is we're not marketing and asking to come in. Yes, people come to you when their car breaks down, but hardly ever do people come in and say, hey, I'm here for my 96,000 K service, or I read the owner's manual and I need a timing belt. Maybe they do, but some do, but most don't. Most people come to us when they have a breakdown situation. The problem with that is you can't pre-order parts because it's a breakdown situation. You need to diagnose or inspect it, then order the parts. And the problem with repair is, some repairs certainly profitable, some's not. And, we've always talked about gravy work and grunt work. Well, repair isn't always like brakes or grunt work. Gravy work, no question. But some of the repairs are just, we're selling 1 hour for the 1 hour that we spent or longer. And so some of the repairs, are profitable, some are not. But when it comes to maintenance, it is without a doubt the most profitable work that we can do. Usually it doesn't require our most expensive technician or diagnostician. It doesn't usually require, you're hearing me okay, Patty?
Yep.
Okay, because the sound's coming out of my projector now, which is interesting. And so anyway, back to Jim. So Jim decided that in November, as I suggested, this would have been 2005. and he started pre-booking appointments. So much so that on November 2nd, 3rd, something like that, 2005, I was speaking at a convention in Las Vegas at the Cars Convention the same week as the Industry Week for Automotive, the SEMA show, all of that kind of stuff. And I'd asked him to send me an email, which he sent the morning of the class. And he said, Kelly, I just want to let you know that I already have 44 pre-booked appointments for February. Jim no longer hates February. And the reason I go back to 2005 is because it's one thing to say, okay, I'm trying that and it's worked great for the last 2 weeks. But when somebody says I've been doing it from 2005 up to now 2018 and improving on it, it's longevity. And he would tell you that it has revolutionized his business. Again, if you've not listened to the interview, I'm going to be sending it out to everybody here. If you're listening to the recorded version of this, please email me because I won't be able to see that you actually watched it, and I will send you that interview. At any given time, Jim Voigt has over, and I don't exaggerate, over 700 pre-booked appointments. When you're there for your winter tires, he books your summers to be put on. And then when you're there for the summer, you already have your appointment for the winters to be put on. Now, Jim Voigt does it a little bit differently than what we're going to describe with Patti, and that's fine. I've got another client out west, definitely the king of pre-booking appointments out in BC. His name is Ron Tremblay. Some of you may know him as he has taught management groups over the years, and he's without a doubt the king of pre-booking appointments there. And I'm going to be sending you an email that he sent me, and this is way back, I think the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't remember exactly, but it's quite a long time ago. And he, at the time, I think had something like 600 or 700 pre-booked appointments. And he took it further. What he did is he calculated what his average invoice is in dollars and hours per repair order. He counted how many pre-booked appointments he had over the next year, and he basically knew that he had already pre-sold all of this money's worth of work. And the analogy that I thought of just this week, Patti, and I don't know if I've even sent it to you, is I thought about the dentist industry. And let's say, Patti, you wanted to buy a dentist office. Now, of course, you'd have to be a dentist or hire one, but you're going to buy a dentist office, and you're looking at these options that you have, and you've got a dentist that's really new, and they just started up, and you look at the schedule for the next year, and there are literally no pre-booked appointments. The schedule is completely empty. Well, that's not very appealing. But if you look at a repair shop, dentist office, and they already have 12 to 15 appointments pre-booked in advance, then that would be a lot more appealing to see a full year of scheduled appointments for every day for the next year. And by the way, I've said that dentists pre-book appointments, and in reality, I'm wrong. It's not dentists that pre-book appointments. It is hygienists that pre-book appointments. And I think that helps us understand the difference as well. Dentists do not pre-book repair. They don't say, well, we phone the psychic hotline and you're going to get to have a root canal, so let's see you before then. You are coming in for maintenance. It's the hygienist. If you called your dentist today and you had a sore tooth or toothache or whatever, it's really bad, and you want to get in, you will probably get in today, and they will probably charge you somewhere between $60 and $100 fee for a rush service. Why? Because that dentist is going to see you and do the diagnosis, which is what dentists do. Hygienists don't do diagnosis. If they see an issue, then they bring in the dentist. And so the dentist is the diagnostician and the repair person. A dentist only does in a dentist office what hygienists are not allowed to do by law. But if you wanted to get in today for a hygiene appointment, you probably wouldn't. Now, it depends on how busy your dentist is, of course. But when they're looking out at the schedule for the next year, and some of them will have 6 or 7 appointments every day booked out, and in some cases full. Like, I'm sure you've experienced this. I have, where you go to the dentist and they say, okay, you're going to come back in 6 months, or you're going to come back in a year, and you see the scheduling, which they have phenomenal scheduling systems, and you see the schedule way out. And they're looking at, so, okay, no, we couldn't see you on Wednesday. Is Thursday? Well, no, you'd have to see the dentist that day too. So they're trying to peg you in to a future schedule. It's not empty. Whereas in a repair shop, if I said, hey, can I get an appointment in June of next year, I think every shop's going to be able to take me in. So our recommendation is that you pre-book in advance. And so back to Ron Trombley, he books it the day of, and he explains to the person when their appointment is. Again, I've taught this for years, and I used to teach it that way, that you book the appointment. The biggest problem I've seen, the biggest hurdle that shops have run into, and I know what it is, they are asking the customer rather than telling the customer. You don't ask somebody if they want a pre-book appointment, you let them know when the appointment is. Your dentist doesn't say, would you like your hygiene appointment? The way I've listened to it is they usually say, let's go ahead and make your next appointment. Let's go ahead and make your hygiene appointment. They don't say, would you like to? And so when you say to a customer, would you like to make an appointment for February, March, and you don't know what the appointment would be for, then it's challenging. And you can ask them, and the customers can say, well, I don't know where I'm going to be February 8th. And the joke I tell is you look at them and say, I do. I know exactly where you're going to be on February 8th. You're going to be standing at this counter giving me some money. Now, of course, that's a joke, but people don't know the specific day. And what you do is you can say, okay, let's go ahead and make the appointment, and we'll call you the week before. A couple of years ago, we changed the strategy to be, instead of your appointment is on a specific day, your appointment is the week of February 1st to 8th, and we will call you the week before. Now, it's interesting, there was a session last night where somebody challenged that, and they said, well, what if everybody chooses Monday? What if everybody chooses Wednesday? Well, I really said to them, then don't do it. Like, if people are constantly coming up with reasons why it won't work, what good is that? And so, if you think it won't work because your area is different, or I've had people say, but my customers are different, or my area is different. I don't think that's true. Maintenance is maintenance, cars are cars, people are people. I'm not sure where that noise is coming from, but people are people and cars are cars, and people will pre-book appointments. Doing it in Vancouver, in all throughout places in the U.S. that I've trained. I've trained in every. Is that from your shop, Patti?
No, it looks like Steve is unmuted.
Can you mute that?
Can I?
Yeah, you should be able to mute that. I'm not sure. Whose is it?
Steve.
Steve, if you wouldn't mind, you can choose to mute your phone there, or your microphone, whatever you have. Anyway, the problem I find is that people ask, and our recommendation is if you make it the week of a specific period, then there's less pressure or less of the chance that the person says, well, I need to check my schedule. And so again, this person last night said, what if everybody comes in Monday? So I thought it was kind of funny that here's a shop that's not pre-booking at all, that's all of a sudden concerned that they're going to be overbooking 3 months down the road. I mean, the concept is bizarre, and I really think the issue was, I'm going to tell you why I think it won't work for me. But in your case, Patti, you called the people the week before, and you see your schedule, and you know what's going to be happening. So if you call them the week before and they choose Monday, and the next person chooses Monday, and the next person chooses Monday, then you're going to say when you call, well, Monday's full, let's see you on Tuesday. Now, the chances of filling up one day, certain, the more pre-booked appointments you have. I mean, back to Jim Voigt, over the next year, he has appointments for a year. And what he does, by the way, and you can do the same thing, he educates his people, we need to see you every season change, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall, winter. So when you're in the spring, you know when your summer appointment is, when you're there in the summer, you know when your fall appointment is, etc. So he pre-books those for every season change. He definitely pre-books the winter tire season and the summer tire season. He pre-books that. The difference that Patti and I have come up with, and by the way, Jim does it the day of, Ron Trombley does it the day of. That's the way we used to teach it, and people have been doing it, and it works. In the case with Patti, my recommendation was to pre-book it for the week of. I've seen shops do that, and they say, nobody says no, because it's not, I don't know where I'm going to be January 8th. They say, oh, the week of 1st to the 8th. Now, if that person says, yeah, but I'm going to be on a cruise or on holiday, then you say, okay, how about the week after? And again, what we're trying to do is fill up our future with gravy work. And in your case, Patti, You've had a lot more maintenance this month than you typically do. And just so you know, in the case of Patti, she's been really, really good and diligent with her parts gross profit. She's not doing the discounting that some people do. She doesn't, I've been working at a shop on the counter and the owner goes, well, let me sharpen my pencil and I can get you a cheaper part and let me see what I can do with your bill. They didn't ask for a discount. He just automatically offers it. So if you get offered a discount and you're at that shop again, you're thinking, okay, when are you going to tell me about the discount? And so I don't believe in discounting. We don't need to. We provide quality service. We provide the best warranty in the area. Patti, what's your warranty?
2-year 20 or 2-year 40.
Now, just for the record, you and I were having a discussion about a dealership where one of your customers got some work done and went to the dealership for something else and decided, maybe you would charge too much. He balked at the bill and he came back to see you and said, hey, you charged me like $568 more than the dealership. And I suggested to Patti, call the dealership. You're a customer. Call the parts department that you know and you've called many times to order parts, and have them explain to the advisor that you're a customer, so you're not just some random person calling, and explain the deal. Now, the warranty at that particular dealership, without naming it, do you know what the warranty is? Most dealerships is 12/12.
That's what I believe, but I don't know.
So if their warranty is 12/12, and by the way, I had a fellow in Ontario this week, he said, well, the law says 90 days on labor or 90 days on parts, whichever. And I thought, what? You would never give somebody, I don't think. To me, 12/12 is reasonable, 12/40 is better, and I really believe in 24 or 24/40, whatever. And the point is that when a person realizes that that part is less expensive at the other place, but the warranty is less than half, then that helps sell it as well. So the point is with that situation, then the person, you did, and it was a small amount that you were over, certainly not the $500. Anyway, so back to this, that was a customer, I think, who had an appointment for maintenance. Anyway, so Patti's been really good at parts GP. And the reason I'm saying this is because your labor sales should exceed your part sales. But in the case of Patti, because she's so good at maintaining her parts matrix and making sure she holds the gross profit, I'll just safely say that Patti's gross profit on parts is always, and I mean always, over 50% at the end of every month. Now, that doesn't happen every day. You sell an engine or transmission in a day, you're not going to hit 50. It's just not going to happen. But I've been looking at Patti's financials for all of 2017, month to date, actually to yesterday's date. And the labor, the parts GP has always been over 50. So with Patti doing so well on parts GP, it's harder. There's no question it's harder to have your labor sales exceed your parts sales. Now I see some people that the parts gross profit is 32%, and yet they still see more money from parts than labor, which is crazy. But if that shop simply went back and had 32% gross profit on parts, and the parts sales monthly are always higher than labor, and they go from 32%. We saw that shop, recently in a class, Patti, where I gave them the matrix, and they went from 32% to right 49.8. I don't make up stories. The problem with that is their part sales were higher than their labor sales. The problem there is that if you go from 32 to 50%, your part sales increase drastically, and now your part sales are even higher than your labor. But in the case of Patti, her parts sales have always been higher because her GP is good. But I said, Patti, when you start selling maintenance, which is labor intensive, you're pre-booking more appointments, you're going to have more labor, you are going to see labor than parts. And for those of you that know Patti, it's almost impossible to win an argument, not quite. But I said, Patti, it's going to happen. She said, no, it's not. I said, yes, it is. She said, but our parts GP is high. I said, I know, but it's still going to happen. And last week, I get a text from Patti, and she said, oh, my labor sales are higher than my parts sales. And I responded and said, oh my God, you need to fix that. That's not good. I'm going to suggest you offer free labor for the next week to make sure your part sales. But the point is, Patti, you are selling more maintenance, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
And the appointments that you're making in advance are maintenance. So as a technician, I would rather work on maintenance than repair work. It's gravy work, not grunt work. You often beat the times. Like if it's a 96,000 case service and you've done them several times, you're going to be able to beat the time on that. Why? Because of your skill, because of your equipment, because of your tools, because of your experience. So when we beat the time because we're good at it, we should make more, not less. I mean, that would mean if we only charge for the time, the slowest technicians out there would make more money because it took longer. Well, we shouldn't penalize ourselves. And I say that because some people say, yeah, but I did that in 3 hours and the book calls for 4 and I can't charge 4. Okay, so tell your technician to be slower and spend 4 hours and charge for it. When they meet the time because of their skill, you need to make sure that you're getting paid for that skill. And, I was this week doing CTI training for CarQuest. And here are technicians that are there in the evening, 2.5, 3 hours, every single month, month in and month out, 10 months of the year. And some of these people have been doing it for 18, 19 years. That commitment to go to training after work when you've been up all day and it's really exhausting. And some of these people, one guy last night was traveling, I think, 1.5 to 2 hours or something to get to that class. For a 3-hour class, that's quite a commitment. So the point is, you go to training and learn how to do something better. You shouldn't make less because of that. You should make more. And when you buy more tools to get more efficient, you shouldn't make less. You should make more. And I know I'm talking fast, but this is being recorded, by the way. I did get a recorder right from the very beginning. When I said that, when Patti, you started just seconds before you started, there it is. And so in a way, the point is that now your labor sales exceed your part sales. Now, we're kind of doing it micromanagement, Patti, because I'm really asking you every day, which is not fair. That's really micromanagement because you have days that you sell higher in parts and labor. So I don't suggest that you look at your labor and part sales every day. It's micromanagement. One day it's up, one day it's down. But by the end of the month, the end of the quarter, the end of the year, when you look at your income statement, your labor sales should definitely exceed your part sales. So one of the huge advantages of selling more maintenance, pre-booking more appointments, is you're going to be much more labor intensive. Your labor GP is going to increase. Your labor sales are going to increase. Your net profit on your labor is going to increase. And your techs are going to be happier because it's easier work and it's better for you because you can pre-order parts. In the case of Jim Voigt, and again, I'm sending you the interview that I suggest you listen to. In the case of Jim, he calls the people 5 days out and says, Patti, just want to confirm your appointment for next Wednesday. And you go, yeah, I'll be there 8:30. Then he goes ahead and orders the parts. I've met his parts vendor. I was in the parts vendor store. He said, I love Jim. I love him. I wish all of my customers would pre-book because he's not always, sometimes he needs a part quicker because it's a diagnosis or repair. But most of his parts are ordered 5 days out. Could you imagine if you were able to order the bulk, and I don't exaggerate, not all, but the bulk of your parts in advance. So one of the things that Patti and I came up with just a little while ago, again, I've taught pre-booking appointments from way back in about 1992. Some of you have tried it, you started it, stopped it for whatever reason. I want to encourage you to start it again. And this workshop is being recorded just the last part of October 2018. And so you've got your tire season coming up, most of you. And I want to encourage you to slow it down a little bit in November and pre-book appointments for February, January and February. Now, if it's more urgent work and it's safety, well, you'll hopefully get it done in November when they're in. But if it's less serious, then you can take care of it in December. And if it's even less serious, it could be January, February. And our recommendation is that you pre-book about 6 hours a day. So in a week, you're talking about booking about 30 hours per technician for the week. And if you don't track that, I encourage you to do on your schedule. Most of your techs are there 8 hours. You don't want to sell all 8. You don't want to overbook because we're still going to have people that come in. You do this every day. How many people come in and say, I want more work done than I had an appointment for? Oh, by the way, it started pulling. The brakes started squeaking or whatever, so they want more work. And I've heard people say 50% of customers want more work done than they made an appointment for. And by the way, you'll hear in the interview with Jim is those people used to piss Jim off. He said, I hate when they come in, they want more work done and I'm already overbooked and I can't get it done. I said, Jim, they're trying to spend more money. I said, how long have people been wanting more work? He said, forever. Then change what you do. Don't overbook. Our recommendation is that you book 6 hours per tech per day. And then again, when you're calling the week before, then you take the 30 hours that you pre-booked or, for each tech or whatever you've got, and then you spread that 30 hours out over Monday through Friday. And of course, you probably want a little bit more reserve time on Mondays because it's the drop-in day and a little bit more time on Fridays because it's the grass catcher day. So I'm going to turn over to Patti, but just want to say one thing, is that I've taught this for years, and we've always taken a look at all data in Mitchell On Demand. And in our advanced service advisor class, which sometimes is 3 days, sometimes it's 5, we actually do role plays on how to sell maintenance. So we pull off from Mitchell or All Data the manufacturer's recommendation. Now, normally in the US, when I'm doing this, is the 30s, the 60s, and the 90s. And of course, you can convert that to kilometers, which Identifix shows both. But the nice thing about a 96,000 K service, again, it's going to be gravy work. And so when you schedule that in advance, it's great. But when you look at All Data or Mitchell On Demand, it's not visually appealing. It's designed for a shop. It's designed for technicians. And yes, you could give a copy to a customer, but it's not pretty. And it just goes check, 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 inspect, 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 replace, replace, replace. Well, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, Patty, you were online doing our coaching session because he's in my online group. And I was talking about Identifix, and she pulled up Identifix, and I started drooling. I said, Patty, look at that. What Identifix did is not only took their maintenance schedule, but they made it so it's nice if you print it off and show it to your customer. And so now that's what Patty's been doing, and she's going to take you what she does through the process. We recommend when you have a new customer that you interview the customer. You don't have them coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning like everybody else. You set a time, maybe it's 9 o'clock or 9:30, so hopefully they're the only ones there. And you ask them questions like, how long have you had the car? Did you buy it new? Who else drives the car? How much do you drive? And asking those kinds of questions. And then what we recommend is that you know the vehicle in advance when they made the appointment for the interview. It's an appointment for an interview, and then the repair after that, of course. But we suggest that you print off the factory recommended service in advance. That'll show for the next several months or year, and next several maintenance schedules, and then you provide them with the most current one. So Patty, can you show us what you actually do in Identifix? When we talked about this a couple months ago, we were talking about it. It was an idea, and you started doing it. And again, what it did is took All Data and Mitchell On Demand information and made it better and more visual for the customer. So now you've been doing it for a couple months. So your turn, Patty.
Okay, so excuse me. So I've stuck my car in there. My car's got no miles on it, so I'm just going to plug a number here. So you pick the vehicle, you put it in the odometer, and I click customer plan. So this car at 50,000 clicks, this is what it needs. And it's not a whole lot of clicks. So replace engine air filter. So not a whole lot right now. Then you can also check the maintenance schedules. This is for the next however long, like it goes on and on and on. So if I don't find anything that's due right now, I'll check the next service interval. And here it says replace engine air filter. Here it wants the cabin air filter. So told if they're at 50, print this off for them. Tell them they need a cabin air filter when they come in for their 64,000 service. If it's a new customer that comes in, I plug their vehicle in, find out the kilometers on it, and I will go to that page that specifies it, print that off for them so they can tell in the next year what services are going to be needed. So if there's something major, they can start saving for it. Like this one, for instance, needs a tranny flush. Well, that's a bit more than just a cabin air filter. So I will estimate the job. I'll pre-book the appointment based on what they're telling me their driving habits are. Haven't had anybody say no yet. When you go back to the customer plan, you can do a print preview, and it's just so professional looking. Like my customers love it. This is what prints off, and this in the color, everything. They just love it. They're like, "Oh my God, this is so professional looking," and it is, and it's they love it, and it's changed my business, as I said. 1, 2, 3, probably 5 jobs today were pre-booked maintenance. And yes, this month my labor is higher than my parts.
Okay, so Patty, can you pull up a maintenance schedule for your own personal vehicle?
Okay, for my PT Cruiser?
The one that I've been driving for the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, that one. Because Andy's truck is new and it's got 3,000 clicks on it. So what is Kelly's driving around in my 02 PT Cruiser. 02. It's due for an oil change. PT Cruiser, and it is a 2.4. And when it comes back, it will have 250,000 on it. So this is what my car will need when Kelly brings it back. It'll need an oil change, and it needs a muffler.
Thanks for the humor, Patty.
It's due for training service, brake service, and spark plugs.
Now, could you go to where it's going to show for that, where the 5-page is, where you see what it's going to be out,
Yep.
Up to 500,000 K or whatever?
So that's the 120. That's 2. So here, so this is what I would give the customer if it was a new customer, come in with this many or with this many kilometers on it. So yeah, like it's due for plugs when it comes back. Inspect the tie rods. This thing's in the way. Tranny service. So yeah, they, like, as I said, they enjoy me being able to tell them what's coming, like anything big coming up that they can start saving for it. I book that next appointment. I give them a service date card, what's due, and estimate the job.
Okay, so but when it's all of the services, how do you handle that when you're looking at, like, go to the mileage that you're at, and then what page is that on?
Well, this is on page 3.
Okay, and I'm not seeing the full page on my phone.
Are you not?
No, well, not on my phone because it's too small.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah.
but which, like, how many are across the top? What's the lowest mileage and the highest mileage?
Yeah, it goes from 240 to 336.
Okay, so if it was the last one, if you had that happen where you're looking at, let's say, page 2, and it's the very last one, so all they're seeing is the next one, so to speak, but it's the last column. And so will you print off the next page?
Yes, I do.
So what do people think of when you're showing the work that needs to be done over the next year or so?
Nobody said anything negative about it. It gets printed off, it gets given to them. And as I said, I do book the next service. And then when it comes in for that service, I'll bring this up again and I'll book the next service. Now we're only hitting the first time, like the first recommended maintenance right now. So I can't say nobody said no on and on and on, but nobody has said no to this point. I'm not having one customer not go for it.
So the question that most people have is, how do you sell it? I mean, how do you actually go through the process? I've had some people that get gun shy because, again, they ask instead of tell. And I know telling sounds firm or maybe controlling, but it's not. And, if you don't remember what your dentist says when they pre-book it, or the hygienist, the next time you're there, listen to what they say. They say, let's go ahead and make your next appointment. Now, in the notes that I sent you, which we're not going to cover all of that, obviously, but there's a lot of industries that pre-book appointments. I was in York, Pennsylvania, and I had a shop owner there whose wife was a dog groomer. And we went to his shop, his home for lunch on his day off. And his wife was cutting a dog's hair. And so he introduced me to his wife, and she said to the customer who was picking it up, okay, so the next haircut is 6 weeks out or something. And I said, look at that. She's pre-booking appointments and you don't. And it's, he's a shop owner. I may have said, but he's a shop owner. And I said, you need to be able to pre-book appointments. Dentists, as I mentioned, hygienists pre-book appointments. Hairdressers pre-book appointments. I lived in the country. Septic companies pre-book appointments. Furnace cleaning companies pre-book appointments. Hygienists, what do you call them? Chiropractors, I should say. I was in a serious car accident. Massage therapists pre-book every appointment. The physiotherapy pre-books all of the appointments. So we're just doing one of what many industries are doing already. And I'd just like to say that with dentists, it's actually us that should have thought of it before them and be at a point where we were doing it as well as them, is because with the dentist, you are the patient. You need to be there. You don't drop off your teeth in the night drop box. If that's the case, it's a denturist, not a dentist. But with the dentist, if you're sick, you're not going in. If you're away, you can't go in. If it's a horrible storm and you don't feel comfortable driving as a patient. But with us, we can go get the vehicle. Patty, you have a pickup service, right? You go to pick up people's vehicles and bring them back. Well, you don't pick up the person, you pick up the vehicle. Or if somebody says, I'm going on vacation, well, how about if we have you drop off the vehicle well before you go, and we'll have it repaired, hopefully, when you come back. If they're sick, we could go pick it up. If it's bad weather, I've had shops who have tow trucks actually go to the house and tow the vehicle to the shop because the person didn't want to drive or whatever. There's lots of options that you have. So Patty, what I'd like you to talk about is how you do it, the card that you use, and what you staple to the invoice.
Okay, so if it's an existing customer and they've been in, I've got cards made up that say service statement, says you are booked for the week of scheduled service, and it's got our name on it. That gets stapled to their invoice. Their recommended maintenance gets stapled to their invoice. And different customers, you have to talk to them a different way. Just since I started doing this, I have totally flipped a breakdown customer into a maintenance customer. We did brakes. I told him he was due for a caliper service. Now this is something, caliper services are not on this maintenance schedule. Our shop has done since day one. So twice a year we service our customers' calipers. We charge $60 to do it. Then hardware if it's needed. They come in twice a year. So every second oil change it gets done, or it gets done a tire season change. This customer has come in for every maintenance. He was just in, had spark plugs done. He was just in this week and had caliper service done, front and rear hardware replaced. $400 ticket went out the door. He's like, call me when my next caliper service is due. And he was one that he would wait till his car broke down and came in. So yeah, so when a customer comes in, their invoice is stapled with the maintenance. You're booked the week of whatever, you will get a phone call before, and we'll work it into our schedule and work around your schedule. You know, and those that I have to say butter up to get it, you know, these are there to make your car run more efficient, to give you better, you know, if it's spark plugs, give you better fuel mileage, you know, depending what's on there, so you don't have breakdowns, so your vehicle's reliable. You know, I pump it up and I tell them what they need to hear or what they want to hear, why we're doing this, that it's not just for us to make money, it's to look after the vehicle. Your vehicle is your, you know, second most important, or second highest investment that most people make.
So the cards, you had some cards printed, right?
Yes.
Do you want to just explain that?
Yeah, it's just it's a business card size. It says service date, booked for the week of, and the scheduled service. So it's written in there, and then it's just got our name and address on the bottom. Yeah, and it gets stapled right to the front of their invoice.
And I'm assuming it's every car, every time?
Oh, every car, every time.
Every customer, every time?
Yep.
Now, you mentioned the caliper services, and I'm not saying shops don't do that service, but what I can tell you in my 31-year career, you're the only one that has talked about pre-booking caliper services or suggesting caliper services. So can you explain, because it's not in fact a recommended service, so why do you do them?
We do it. It saves the caliper, saves the brakes. Our customers are getting twice as long out of the brakes. So we're not getting the brake work, but I mean, they're happy because they're not replacing the brakes at $800 a side. They come in twice a year. Now, actually, I just heard from our parts vendors, and it's something you guys might want to check. When you do a brake job, if those brakes are not maintained, they won't honor the warranty, or they're going towards that end. As I said, it's something we've always done. So to me, it's been a guaranteed 2 appointments a year to get them in and look at the brakes, and that way their calipers aren't sticking on. We very seldom replace calipers because we can get 3 years worth of caliper services out of them before they brake calipers on.
I don't know if it was everybody else, but it was just cutting out just a tad there. Can you just repeat that last sentence, please?
Oh, yeah, like it just makes their calipers work, or calipers last longer. We're replacing calipers maybe once every 3 years because we're servicing them. You know, a caliper service, hardware included, is $150. So, you know, a brake caliper one we sell for $300-400. So they, you know, they love the service we're providing. They're not spending that money on that big ticket item.
And it's mainly labor, right?
Oh, it's all labor.
Yeah. And so when you do a brake job for somebody, do you pre-book the caliper service?
Oh, you betcha.
Based on time or mileage or both?
Based on 6 months. I go 6 months to the date.
Okay. And you've done that since you started the shop, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I'm teaching a session here tonight in Barrie. It happens to be in the same hotel I'm staying at, which is convenient. But I'm going to talk about caliper services because I'm curious why you're the only one that's mentioned that. And again, you know, it's saving the customer money. It's protecting the investment that they just made. I'd be interested, by the way, in chats from people right now that are on. Of course, if you're on live, if you're recording, no. But if you've got any questions about that, you could just go into the chat bar there and ask Patti questions that you have. You can ask questions to me as well. So Patti, back to the business card. So have you shown the actual next maintenance for your PT Cruiser and all of the stuff across?
Did I give it to you?
No. Did you show what I'm saying?
Well,
It's too funny because I'm driving it. You're so funny. And by the way, the joke about the muffler is because I'm driving the vehicle and it's getting louder and louder. And I had it for what, 4 days or 5 days or something. And I feel terrible. I know I didn't hit anything. I did not bottom out on anything. But it's a 16-year-old vehicle. And anyway, so, but back to the service. You showed all the way across, right? Could you
Yes.
show what all of the pages look like for that PT Cruiser? You know,
Yeah.
a different vehicle. Before that, what's the truck that you have?
Our truck is an 18 Ford.
So what I'd like you to do is to pull that up to see, so we can see a newer vehicle than the 16-year-old Cruiser.
Okay.
No, just because, you know, not all vehicles are going to be that old, right?
Oh, no, for sure. Ford. It is a Platinum. Oh, no, it's not an Explorer. Hang on here, Ford.
Yeah, there's the options, and that's what I want is for people to see it. For those of you that have Identifix, you can play with that. There's the customer section, there's the maintenance section, there's the technician section. And Patti, we've not figured out why, but some vehicles show normal when some show severe, right?
Yes.
And I don't know why. You know, I've looked at the US version and it almost always shows severe. But for whatever reason, the Canadian version doesn't always, and I'm not sure why. And by the way, we recommend that you print off. Do you see where it shows the definition of severe there?
Well, on this vehicle, it says there's nothing needed, so I got.
Right, okay, so we'll come back to that. We're going to be finished in just a few moments, but if you could go back and step them across from page 1 to page 5, and I'm going to recommend that you don't give them all 5 pages or all 3 pages.
Oh no.
You go, and I'm just saying for the group that's on, is I think you can overwhelm people, especially if it's a new vehicle and you're showing them 5 years out. Now, maybe you can ask them if they want that. And by the way, we recommend a new customer packet. It's a simple dual file folder. You can get them at Staples for like $1 each. And there's a place in there for your business card. And we recommend that you have in there the 7 benefits of factory recommended service, which is in the notes that I sent you. And I think you need to let people know why you're pre-booking the maintenance. And you see the list in the notes there if you printed that off. And of course, you can print it off anytime. It's a PDF, but the car is going to last longer. They're going to save money on fuel. It's going to increase the resale value. It's going to provide better peace of mind. The vehicle is going to be safer. It's hugely beneficial. Over the life of a vehicle, if a person practices maintenance, they're going to save a huge percentage of what they in repairs. So again, if you could just show all 5 across, what's the current mileage on the truck?
Like 4,000 clicks.
Okay, so it's page 1. So if you could just show page 1.
Well, I had to bring up another vehicle because it brought up absolutely nothing for that vehicle. So I brought up a different one that was just in today, a 14 Mazda.
I wonder why it's not there. I don't know the answer to that. It's the first time we've seen that, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I brought up the Mazda now. So it does bring up the normal maintenance schedule 1, severe maintenance schedule 2. Now, to me, it's not changing anything. And it's hit and miss. Some of them will bring up saying you're driving in snow and slush and gravel roads, and this, I'd have to find a vehicle to show that to you. But yeah, so like there's page 1 for this. Yeah, page 1 of 21. So this one's going to go on forever.
Yeah, you wouldn't overwhelm people with that.
No, they whatever page pertains.
Okay, so just for the record, what is the current mileage on that vehicle approximately?
114.
Okay, so go to 114, the closest one to it.
Okay. Yep.
Now, and by the way, another option here is to take a look at, let's go 114, and what's the one prior to that? Because there's pent-up maintenance, so to speak, as well.
Well, you're the thing that I print out will print off the catch-up maintenance.
Okay. So you can ask what have you had done, and of course, some people have their book and they've tracked it all along, and most people have never cracked open their owner's manual.
Yeah, no, what is it? Let me pull her out. It says the past due maintenance or whatever that it says. So I check to make sure that's all been done.
Okay, so again, my phone is so tiny I can't see it, but because it's all the way across. But what's the closest maintenance prior to the 114?
Well, the 112.
Okay, and so you would ask them if they've had that done. Have you done that yet?
It was just to rotate tires, and we just put tires on today.
No, sorry, what I mean, Patty, is have you had customers since you started pre-booking these appointments that have you have said to them about the previous?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And yeah, and have you had this done? And so far, the majority has been existing customers, so I know if it's been done or not. But if it's somebody new, I'll say, where is your vehicle in service? Do you know if this has been done? This has been done. This has been done. And if they don't know, it's like, well, when you bring it in, we'll pull the plugs and see if they've been done, or we'll check the transmission fluid to see if it needs changed. We'll whatever we have to do.
Now, I've not asked you this question before, but if they haven't had the previous service done, you sell that. What do you say about the next service? Do you book that? Like, how do you deal with that?
We'll do the catch-up maintenance first, because to me that's more important. Make sure this has all been done, and then when that's done, whatever should have been done today, I will book for the next one. Because not very often in the service intervals that they need something major done. So I mean, if it's just a matter of, like today, for instance, we did spark plugs that were catch up. We did a coolant flush, and it needed a tranny service. So we did the spark plugs and the tranny service, and I put the coolant flush off for 3 months.
Okay, so and then you'll make the appointment for the next one.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, the part that blows me away, and one of the reasons I wanted you to be on this session, is because nobody said no. And I've had people say, they just spent $800 today. They just spent $1,600 today. I don't want to tell them that they need to spend more. But my experience is with most of those big ticket items, it's because they didn't do the work. Patty, just briefly, can you tell the story about the fellow who was going to have you repair his son's car and then buy one, and when he did?
Oh, yeah, we had an 02 Buick LeSabre come in. It's a college kid. It came in to have we came in because the check engine light was on, and so wanted us to scan it and put the winter tires on. So it came in. We put it up on the hoist. First thing we saw is the frame. One side of the frame is rotted through, and then it needed a tie rod. It needed a wheel bearing. It needed brakes. It needed whatever. So I did up an estimate, and I said, Mark, this vehicle, without us replacing the subframe, I said it's $2,700, and I said, and that's not including the subframe. What do you want us to do? And he said, I don't think I'm going to fix it. He said, what do I owe you for what you did? So.
And how much was that?
Pardon me?
How much did he owe you?
Well, it was for the scan test and the oil change. It was, I don't know, $280 or whatever.
So did he feel like that was a waste of money?
Not at all.
Some people think, oh my God, it's $200 and they're not going to keep it. Well, they're not keeping it because of what you did. So they're happy that you did it. I've had people say, oh, I'm sorry, we found a lot wrong. No, they're happy because they're spending $200 knowing that maybe they're not going to keep the car and they're going to put money into it. It would have been a waste of money. So I recommend when you're doing a major job in a customer's vehicle that you sell them an inspection first, comprehensive inspection. Say, you know what, before we go ahead with this $2,700 job, let's perform an inspection, which is exactly what you did. Okay, so back to the story. Sorry.
Yeah, so when Andy took, it was a vehicle that we had picked up. When he took it in at the end of the day to deliver it, Mark said to him, go ahead and fix it. And Andy's like, what? And he said, yeah, I went out car shopping, and he said, I don't want to spend $5,000 on a car for my son right now. I want to get one more year out of this. So yeah, I just delivered the car this morning, and his bill went out of here $2,800.
Okay, so now, is that a maintenance customer? Has he been a maintenance customer?
No, because the car is actually up in Bracebridge.
So the point is that when it's a major expense, it's usually, not always, but it's usually because of pent up maintenance. They've not done the maintenance. Therefore, I mean, for a person whose timing belt went because they didn't replace it and now their engine's toast, well, that's a lack of maintenance. And a lot of the major repairs that we've done are a lack of maintenance. So in this case, I would say, you know what, we're going to need to repair this. However, I'm going to recommend that you follow the manufacturer's recommendation, and then you give them that form. And again, in the new customer packet that you give them, again, just a file folder, your business cards in there. You can have a list of the benefits of maintenance. You can take it out of the workbook I sent you and, you know, make it a nice little color form. Speaking of color, you print these off in color, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You know what? The visual appeal of you giving them somebody, and you do it on slightly higher quality paper than 20 pound, so it feels really good. So you print it off in color. I mean, I just can't imagine what it's like for a customer who's never seen that before to see, one, what needs to be done, let's say, over the next year, and two, what needs to be done today or the next visit.
Yeah. They're loving it.
So lastly, what happens when it comes to tires? When you're going to be going through this major tire season, what are you going to do differently this year than last year, and why are you looking forward to February? Patty, by the way, I did not know that you were looking at shutting down. I wasn't aware of that till this conversation.
Oh, like I wasn't serious, but like you just start, you know, you're spending.
Oh, we've all felt like shutting down.
Yeah, because like 3 oil changes a day aren't paying my $8,000 worth of expenses, that not including parts. Like it's like, oh my God, I'm ready to shut the doors. We can't do this.
So what are you going to do differently this November? Oh, by the way, how many appointments did you already have? Like, how long have you been pre-booking winter tire appointments?
Oh, since we started, we opened in November. The first year we opened and got bombarded. Everybody was in here saying, can you do my tires? Can you do my tires? My husband's like, yep, leave it with us. And that's all we did forever. So in April, when we started putting the summer tires back on, or May or whatever month it was, I started pre-booking right then for October or November for the tires. And we've always done that.
Okay. So how many appointments did you have? Well, November's not even here. Now, in the last week or so, I've heard some people say it's pretty much kicking in. Tire season really gets started when the major first snowfall falls or whatever. It's amazing how many people wait for the last minute. And just while we're talking about this, it's a little late for this year, but what we recommend is that you email your entire database. And if you don't have email addresses, I encourage you to collect them. And you email everybody October 1st and say, beat the rush. Don't wait this year. Come in early. Come in before the end of October and give them some kind of incentive. One shop I know, they sent out the email October 1st, and you know the way it works with email, they start calling the same day. I know Jeff on this call, his shop, they started sending out emails, and the calls start coming in that day because they get it that day. And what they said is come in before October 31st, and you are going to receive a high-quality snow brush. You don't have to do that. That's what they chose to do. And they said, we're going to put your name in for a draw for free tire storage for the winter. Now, people said, yeah, but that's a lot of tires. Nope, only one person's winning. So you've got 4 tires that you're going to install, and even in a small shop, you'll find place for 4 tires if you don't currently store tires. Anyway, so back to that, Patty. So how many appointments do you already have booked for November?
I'm actually showing them my protractor screen. So this is my future appointments that I have booked. So here's the beginning of November. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh, 18 so far.
Okay, but you have another Excel spreadsheet that you have.
What's that?
You have a separate spreadsheet for pre-booking.
For the tires?
Yeah, you had two separate ones. You had something for maintenance and something for tires, I thought. There's something.
I had tires from storage.
Okay, so that's all another set of pre-booked appointments.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so in finalizing this, I want to end, I apologize for the issues at the beginning using new technology. I'll have to work around that. Anyway, Patti, if you could just summarize what you do when the customer's coming to the counter, because some people, they're gun shy. Somebody says no, they'll never try it again. And I've heard a lot of reasons why people won't book. I said it already. It's different here. Patti, when you came in the group, how many times did you say, but it's different in Hanover? And somebody in Orangeville said it's different in Orangeville. And I've had people say, but my customers are different. What's so different about your customers? Like, customers are customers, people are people. And I've been to all 50 states, all across Canada. I can't tell you, seriously, well over 100 times where I've heard, but it's different here, it's different here, it's different here. It seems like every place is different. No, cars are cars and people are people. And for when somebody says, no, my database, I know them, they don't want to do that. How do you know that if you've not done it? And I think, why take the time to come up excuses why it won't work? Like last night at the class. Well, what if you pre-book and everybody wants Monday? I thought, great problem to have. I'd rather get to February and be overbooked on Monday, on a Monday than have nobody. Anyway, and again, Patti, so if you could just explain how you sell it at the end and what you attach to the invoice, including the business card, and then the follow-up call, and then we're done.
Yeah. So as I said, their invoice gets posted. Their next recommended maintenance gets posted. Depending on if there's anything needed long-term, they get that page. They get their next service date card, and they get a bag of popcorn that says thanks for coming in. And as I said, I have booked your next appointment for the week of whatever. I would call you the week before, and we'll set an actual appointment.
Your popcorn, doesn't it say thanks for popping in?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to throw that out there. It's very cute and clever. Okay, so tell us about that follow-up call. When do you call? Do you make all the calls for the next week in one day? How do you do that?
So if they are booked in the week of the 28th, I started on the 22nd making those. I make them all on Monday, and that way I can get my week planned out. But yeah, that's the first thing I do Monday morning. Once I get my guys going, I start making the phone calls.
Okay, and what do you say on the call?
I just say, I'm calling to book your appointment for your service that we talked about last time you were in. And I'll look at my schedule and I'll say, does like Tuesday at 10 o'clock work for you? And if they say no, and I said, okay, what's your schedule? Let's get it booked.
Now, what are the excuses? And again, I'm playing the devil's advocate here because I've been training a long time and people say what happens. What happens when you get a voicemail or answer machine?
I just say, I ask them to call me back, and anybody that I've left a message, because so many people work, I'll say, I'm calling to book your next service. Give me a call back, and they text us. We've got a texting thing here. So they'll text me back and say, well, I can bring my car in Tuesday. Does that work for you? Anybody I've left a message has always called me back. It's not, they're not returning my calls. Those that I know I can send a text to, I'll text them and say, I've got this time available. If it works for you, let me know. If not, let me know what works for you.
And how many of those people call you back?
Every one of them done. Like, I've had nobody not call me back, text me back. I've had nobody not book their appointment.
Okay, another thing I've heard is what happens when people say, well, why didn't you start doing this before?
I haven't heard that yet, so I don't know what I'd say.
Again, I'm just, I get frustrated as a trainer when I'm teaching something and people claim it's different there. So that's me. I don't understand that it's different there. I don't understand their database. Their customers seem to be unique. Maybe they're aliens. I don't know. Maybe they drive spacecrafts. I don't know. Like, what makes it so different in that area? And then some people say, well, but I don't know where I'm going to be that week.
Because it's something we've always sorted out. Like, we've always booked the oil changes, and we've always booked the caliper services, and we've always booked the tire changes. And a few years ago, we were doing the maintenance when we were with a different parts provider because I had access to this. And then when we changed our part vendors, I lost this or I lost their program because they had it. I was CarQuest or a TechNet shop, and they had it on their parts store or my parts lookup. When we switched to APC, which is AC Dalco, it wasn't available there. And to me, Identifix was my text fix it. Like that's what they use for their wiring diagrams and stuff. I never went on there and I didn't realize that was on there. And when Kelly found it the day we were in there, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it's there. So yeah, I've got back on it. So yeah, I tell my customers, we used to do that and I lost the program and I've got it back again and we're jumping back on the bandwagon and, you know.
So not everybody on this call, we'll be just a couple minutes, but not everybody on this call has Identifix. So what do you pay for Identifix?
$172 a month.
Is it worth it?
Oh, absolutely.
No, it's not just for this, but you know, your Identifix sales rep or your All Data sales rep that sold you it initially, or Mitchell, they will almost always say, you know, you can pay for this by just selling maintenance. I've asked every class this week, how many people have Identifix, and maybe there's several, maybe over half. How many of you use it for selling maintenance? I don't recall any hands going up, maybe one. But they're not using it for selling maintenance. And again, it's not just an Identifix that all of a sudden, hey, we're going to start pre-booking appointments. I've taught it for years. The difference is the week of stapling the business card, and the card sounds subtle, and it is, but instead of you saying to the customer, by the way, we've made your next appointment, you're pointing to the card that says right there, your next appointment is. And then attached to that is what the appointment is for. And lastly, Patty, do you ever estimate what that maintenance is going to cost before they leave today?
Oh, if it's a big job, yes. Like, I mean, if it's a caliper service, I know what it's going to cost. But yeah, if it's spark plugs or a coolant flush or whatever, absolutely. I'm just going to try and find my next service date card here because I know you had to approve it for me.
Well, I just made one small change.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Anyway, Identifix, for those of you that don't have it, I think it's like $1 for a 10-day trial or something like that. I talked to one client and he said, can I get financing on that $1? But it's worth it, and just check it out. And if you're not using it for your text, I mean, they just love the information that's in there as well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to what I'll need you to do is to send me an email after this webinar, whether it's live or recorded, and I'm going to send you the card from Patty that she has with the next appointment is, and I'm also going to send you the definition of what severe driving is, which I think would be good to print off and put it in the package for the new customers. And you can provide packages to your existing customers as well. And then I'm also going to send you, some of you already have this, but it's a graphic, a chart, a nice looking color graphic that shows how much a person can expect to spend in car repair a year, which is just under $1,200 you'll see in the chart. However, that's all years, makes, and models. In this case, we deal with mainly older vehicles. So our average customer should be spending about $1,600 a year. And so that chart is something I think you should put in the customer's packet, that they can see how much they can expect to spend. And it shows how much they would pay in depreciation if they bought a new vehicle, and what it costs for interest in buying a new vehicle, and what it costs for gas. But it also shows the car repair. So when somebody says, well, I've spent a lot of money on this car, well, pull it up and say, actually, in the last year, you spent $650 and the average person spends $1,600. So you owe me $1,000. Okay, that's a joke. Anyway, did you find it, Patty?
No, I'll have to.
Okay, that's okay. So everybody, please send me an email after this. If you have any questions for Patty, what I'd like you to do is email me, kelly@kellythecoach.com. Of course, I sent you the link, so you have my email address. If you have any questions for Patty, send them to me. I'll forward them off to Patty. If you got questions for me, of course, I'll answer those. With that, thank you very much for coming on. And by the way, we're going to be launching what I think is the very first ever 20 group for advisors. It's called the Blueprint for Success for Advisors. I'll send you that information. We're launching it, and it's going to be what, again, I think the first 20 group for advisors. There's lots of 20 groups out there for shop owners. I've never seen a 20 group per se for advisors, and it's live training online. It's access to webinars that are already recorded, and everyone that's live is recorded. So in the group, you'll have access to all the live workshops. If you can't attend them, you can watch the recording. You can do both if you like. There's also a resource where you can go to and see all of the tools that are available to you as an advisor. And then we have a coaching option. So if you want to do coaching, and then the other thing is we run a live meeting every single month with all of the members together. And we do financial, what we call SPI, Service Advisor Performance Indicators. And so I'll be sending you out that flyer that talks about that group. And there's 2 membership options there, one with coaching, one without, and all the tools that go along with that. So Patti, thank you very much for joining us. I'm encouraged to see that your labor sales do exceed your part sales. I think your coach told you that, but you didn't want to listen. I think I'm not sure. And anyway, and you know what, Patti, the fact that you're doing this, you're not getting opposition. People aren't saying no. People are coming back in. I've had people say, what if they don't come back in? Well, according to Patti. And by the way, I've had Ron Trombley, king of pre-booking appointments in Vancouver. I've had Jim Boyd, king of pre-booking appointments in Ontario. And Patti is the queen of pre-booking appointments for all across Canada. So again, Patti, thank you very much. If you've got any questions, please email me, kelly@kellythecoach.com. And for those of you that are listening to this before November, make sure that your November, you slow it down a little bit, do inspections on the vehicle, print off the schedule maintenance, and use November as your funnel for January and February. With that, thank you very much. Go back and kick butt. Patti?